Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. As always, a reminder that this podcast does not constitute real estate advice, legal advice, broker advice, or advice of any other nature. This is an informative podcast. And if you need advice, please reach out to the correct professional who can help you. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to Launch Grow Harvest Podcast, Business Growth Coaching with Connie and Roland Kim.
Hi, everybody. I'm Connie Boona.
And I'm Roland Kim.
This is the Launch Grow Harvest Podcast, and we're stoked to have you with us today.
Yes, we're going to talk about how to stay motivated when the world feels like it's in a dumpster fire.
I mean, honestly, this is a timeless topic, isn't it?
It is, because whenever someone's going to listen to this, there's something going on that's affecting them negatively, and they have to migrate their way through it.
So this is, particularly poignant for myself personally in the climate that we're delivering and sharing this podcast today. And as we were saying, I think something that we can feel at periods of time, almost at any time, especially in this advanced age of information, where it just feels like, how on earth is it possible that there are so many atrocious things going on all over the place at all times? And so it really begs the question, and I was asked recently by a dear friend and colleague, how do you stay motivated when all of this is going on? How do you keep your head in the game, as they say?
Yeah, great question. For me, it comes, I'm always consciously aware that, yes, I want to be, I want access to a lot of information, but because of that, I think we know so much more than our parents did. And what I mean by that is not perhaps in brain power, but more in awareness. And so both you and I, this week as well, we discovered one of our mentors and a great realtor passed away unexpectedly. And again, I wouldn't have known that in a previous generation if it wasn't for Facebook. So, when I think back at how many people over the last several years that I've, learned about misfortune and health issues and death and challenges, it gets overwhelming. Mm-hmm. Equally, the cool part about having kids and being surrounded by kids is you see so much, birth and positive.
New life, yes.
New life. And excitement. And so for me, I try and keep it in perspective, knowing that, negative news travels much quicker, grabs much more attention than positive news. And I personally don't believe it's proportionally much worse than it ever was. It's just we're more aware about the worst things for periods of time.
Mm-hmm. I totally echo those sentiments and also reflect on the immense privilege that we have to sit here in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, in a safe, warm studio.
Yes.
The biggest inconvenience we're having is an atmospheric river in our communities. And other people in other areas of the world don't even have a fraction of our privilege and our fortune. And so, when I think about that in the context of staying anchored in my overall motivation, I think about the ways that I have changed my perspectives on business planning. This is a business-focused podcast. And so, we can go on a number of different tangents, but we're just going to keep it on that thread for today's conversation and talk about motivation in our capacity as business owners when things feel overwhelming and things feel really big. And I can't help but think about and reflect on some of the core, foundational principles of our business model, Roland, and of our organization. When we think about, your higher power, your family, your business, your community, these are in an order of priority, the fundamental principles upon which the company is founded. And so I think about planning as a component of planning is also thinking about giving back and contributing in a hyper local sense is often the way that I try to keep myself anchored when things feel really overwhelming. I try to stay in the immediate moment.
Hmm.
What do I have control over?
Totally.
And, if I asked you that question today, like, what do you have control over today?
Myself, you know, and I want like taking that statement. So great that you just made a step back, and I think it speaks also to why our partnership is strong and steady, and has migrated through different stages over the last decade plus. Part of it is it's been built on you take care of yourself first. So from financial perspective, as a team, we've never shared other people's commission and assumed that that's the communal you know pool of
Pot.
money. And so I think that mindset is like the foundation where you got to take care of yourself, you got to take care of your family. And then, you have so much left over to take care of each other when we needed things and donate to the community and give back. And I also think it protects you and, like you said, keeps you grounded, where a lot of maybe the problems are coming where there is no more direct self-accountability and the feeling of control gets lost, where I don't have that feeling. I feel I'm in control.
Mm-hmm. And I think, there's an importance to acknowledging that in some places, like, your ability to have autonomy and self-control has quite literally been taken away. But in this particular context, and in our context here in North America, we have a lot of autonomy. We have a lot of ability to steer our own path. And so one of the things I reflect on as we're sharing these examples is also just thinking about, again, like the communal care piece. I'm thinking about people in our direct community. I know that, for example, part of my quite literal business planning has been to allocate like a financial pool of money that I can use, and I don't even have to think about it. It is pre-assigned at the beginning of the year, for when I see in my direct community examples of community members needing assistance and support. I can contribute to those, let's call them GoFundMes or other fundraising efforts immediately, and
Yes.
and certainly with a lot of awareness around the fact that it is important for me to do that and to contribute back. And so sometimes doing those steps of planning can help propel the motivation in times where you're feeling sluggish or sad or down. It's very normal to feel that way. We can all have arcs of emotion. And also, to be able to get up and support people in these amazing journeys, certainly that we do in our capacity as real estate agents, helping people with some of the biggest experiences of their life, some of the biggest financial transactions that will occur in their lives, is a huge responsibility. And I really do try to come to those conversations with like a really focused and centered awareness and mind.
Definitely. I mean, when we were speaking with a colleague earlier this week, and I was driving home after that conversation and thinking, how do I keep myself motivated? And it's things that we've spoken about in the past. And I'd say I kind of blended into two mindsets. One is, my big why is I want to make sure I can support my family and then, support myself and pick up a few toys and things down the road that, bring me joy. But as simple as that sounds, like that is very motivating for me. I know if I didn't have any kids, I would have a different real estate career. Might be better, might be worse, but there would be points in time where I would have made other decisions, not to buckle down and grind it out, or maybe have made bigger, audacious, ideas and steps. But for me right now, my consistency and my motivation comes from wanting to provide for myself and family. And then those moments where you have a little bit of, self-pity or a little bit of, I want this to be easier. I always have an image that jumps into my mind. And it's essentially, I have the language wrong, but it's like my worst day is a majority of the world's best day.
Yes.
And that really resonates with me because like this morning, I was telling you that where we're living, the power was out this morning. And luckily, it's happened when I was halfway through the shower. I got nice warm water still, but then, I couldn't dry my hair, couldn't, it was dark in the bathroom, couldn't really see. And it really makes you quite quickly, realize what you take for granted every day. The running water, the plumbing, the electrical, the fridge working, the food.
Anything you want at the grocery store, you name it.
The debit cards available and all these things. And so I think that reset, it's almost like we should turn people's power off perhaps in Vancouver periodically so they get grateful for what they do have.
Mm-hmm.
And I've established it into my daily habits. So on my daily task sheet, I have 4 cells, and one of them that I fill in is an appreciation cell.
Mm-hmm.
So I just write down something I'm grateful for that day.
Yes.
And it sounds hokey pokey perhaps for some people, or it sounds repetitive because we have spoken about it. But it is, for me, very simple in staying grounded and grateful.
The other thing that I think about in terms of like how to stay motivated is to remember how important it is to take care of your physical self, your body. The idea of doing some sort of daily, if you are physically capable and you have that ability, the idea of doing something daily for your body to clear your mind.
Mm-hmm.
That might look like going for a walk, even if it's raining. That might look like, for some folks, going to the gym and getting a really, really hard workout in, and establishing that as a daily practice, I believe go hand in hand with motivation. And the reason I also think that that's such an important component of motivation is because daily habits will be your legacy. It creates who you are. It is, an accumulation. There's a lot of famous quotes around that you don't decide who you're going to be. Your daily habits decide who you're going to be. And so that's also, again, a component of motivation for me, is also making sure that I'm prioritizing doing something good for my mind and body.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of other things that I try to, incorporate into daily habits. And again, speaking from my own personal lens, also as a parent, like one of the other priorities that I try to incorporate again into daily practice is like intentional time with my children. That is, again, as Roland said, that's certainly for me, that's my biggest motivation is providing for my family and for my children. And so imagine having a life where all you do is work. I mean, we see this, it's around us.
Yes.
And you haven't prioritized spending time with those kiddos that you say is your driving force for why you're working. And then, in too fast, they're grown up.
Definitely. I mean, the fitness, the walking is probably one of the, most amazing discoveries, decisions, and epiphanies have been done from, the podcasts and the books that I'm listening to. It seems from walking.
Yes.
And I listen to John Maxwell's podcast quite a bit. Currently, I'm reading, audiobook, a book that Arnold Schwarzenegger wrote. And it's essentially all about being of value to the world. And it's really interesting. I definitely had a different opinion of him and a stereotype about who I thought he was, which always makes me think about, we do that. We think about people and judge people from where we are and not where they are. And that book, I'm halfway through, and it's actually, I've ordered the hard copy because I'm going to start reading it with my boys. And it's amazing from that book. Hopefully most of it is correct and true. But he really had a path, and like the foundation of his success with lots of fall downs has been to, provide value, to be of service and daily fitness. And that he's continued, forever. I think he's like nearly 80 now. And certainly he has noticed lots of friends and colleagues, stumble and not do as well as him along that same path.
Absolutely. It would be, remiss of me to not say that your daughters would appreciate that knowledge as well, Daddy. And And also just, I love that you are reading and enjoying perspectives from people that you wouldn't necessarily, we have a default bias to surround ourselves with like-minded ideas and thoughts,
Yes.
right? Like that's a common understanding that it's, we have a bias to finding, and that's, all of our social media channels actually reinforce that. So I know that, for example, my social media channel differs from yours absolutely with certainty, right? And there, it's an important part of awareness, perhaps an important and obligation as good citizens and as good business owners, to really and sincerely look outside of our perspectives. I have conversations often with, dear friends, one of my closest cousins. He's more like a brother to me. That we really differ in a lot of ways, and I adore him. He has the kindest heart, and also in a lot of ways, his perspectives are not in any way in alignment with my own in so many different ways, and also, I find it really important for us to continue talking and sharing our perspectives. The podcasts he listens to are not podcasts I listen to. And that's, again, like hit the algorithm that focuses on him is really polar opposite to my like super lefty queer environment, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, that is probably one of the biggest compliments and skills that you have. You have a natural ability to, I mean, you have your own stereotypes, of course, as well, but you have a natural ability to really listen and want to get different perspectives. And most people, sadly, don't, right? And so we don't open ourselves up. Like that cousin of yours, there's times where you can't speak to him because you don't have long enough to hold a conversation, but you're always going to go back to it.
Yes, absolutely.
And so it's, that you're going to certainly have some topics and things brought forward that you don't agree with, but it makes you think about it. All in all, I think, it's interesting too, where when you look at whether someone's a workaholic or someone's not working, well, it seems what I've recently discovered is that it really all comes down to the human is looking for happiness. And many of us are lost in finding it.
Yes.
And when we get off track from, not a daily routine or the habits aren't serving us. And again, keep this in mind. A lot of people say, I plan on getting good habits or I plan on coming up with a plan. Well, you have one. Like if they might not be the ones you want, but a plan is happening around you. Activities are happening. Habits are being delivered constantly.
Yeah.
And so it's really, everyone is looking for happiness without even knowing that that's really what they're focused on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you don't, perhaps if you're not aware of what's getting you there and what's getting you off track, tiny steps later, many days later, you can feel kind of like you're unmotivated. And that's what I'm seeing around us.
Yes, absolutely. I had a really powerful session board meeting. So in our brokerage model, we have an agent leadership council. They're called. It's like a board of directors, and so we had our board of directors meeting yesterday and we often start that meeting with a roundtable where folks can share their recent business experiences and perhaps some challenges. And then as a group, we try to brainstorm. Sometimes it's just an opportunity to vent, and sometimes it's an opportunity to get some feedback. And one of the really powerful reflections I had through that experience of a roundtable is just seeing the diversity. All of these people come to this meeting from a mindset of contribution. They are volunteering their time to improve the culture and the experience at our brokerage. And they have a direct part in steering the course of, our focus for education and training and social events and client events and community impact. We do charitable contributions weekly. So it's just, it was an interesting roundtable with a very diverse group, all of whom were able to share some wins and some losses, but it was very clear that almost all of us were feeling that sense of heaviness.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that has to do with, here's my like spiritual woo-woo here, but we are in the darkest of seasons. These are the darkest days, and these
Makes a
days
difference.
they do make a difference. And it's getting rainy and it's cold, and we're in a shoulder season before fun holiday events start
Yes.
to happen. And so there is some awareness here, I think, folks, for us to remember that, if you're feeling down and if you're feeling that lack of motivation, people around you, your clients, your friends, your neighbors may be feeling that same way. And without a doubt, collective care will take us through. And so this is a really powerful reminder, maybe to pick up the phone and give somebody a call that you haven't connected with. What a beautiful way to stay motivated, to connect in with your community and the people around you.
Definitely. Any last tips? I mean, one that just came to me is write out your thoughts, reach out to
Yes.
people, and just share. Like the colleague that opened up to us, had they not said that, we would have never had that conversation.
No, because sometimes the impression you have on the outside is not the feelings you're having on the inside. So, friends, thank you so much for sitting with us today. If you have ideas around how to stay motivated, or, if you're feeling down in the dumps, reach out. We'd love to give you a hand. We'd love to hear from you. Connie Buna and Roland Kim. You can find us at Keller Williams Realty Van Central at Fraser and 24th Avenue in East Vancouver. You can find us on the internet. I assure you, we have unique names. You will find us. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.